Which lens would you get? Ignoring value for a few minutes, let me tell you why lenses don't get much better than this. This is quite possibly the last lens you'd ever buy. It's the Zeiss 28mm f1.4. This full-frame manual focus lens comes in EF and Nikon FX. The EF version doesn't have an aperture ring on it and will require electronic communication with the camera. With my Fringer Pro 2 and XH2S, I get a 28mm Super 35 look, while the Metabones Speedbooster actually gets to about 30mm on full frame. These adapters have varying effects. The Fringer acts as an extension tube, which means close focusing distance is improved, but you can't focus to infinity. The macro B-roll on this channel is usually filmed with this combination. The image also gets a bit softer, which can be nice for video. 28mm is also such a versatile focal length for cinematography. The Metabones retains most sharpness, though adds a bit of chromatic aberration and slight distortion. Being manual focus only has opened my eyes to a new world. The intimidation of manual focus quickly disappears once you get a feel for how easy it is to manipulate the rubber focus ring. The smooth action combined with a short 270-degree focus throw makes focusing by hand effortless. Having precise control over what you want in focus is invaluable for video. For photos, manual focus is the most fun you can have, as it allows you to have a closer connection with your camera. Especially wide open, shifting slightly out of focus or onto another part of the body will give you drastically different images. There's a trade-off here, as the lens breathes quite heavily. The Otis is also quite dense at around 1.3 kilograms, probably bigger than your camera, and has a massive 95mm filter thread. But despite the weight, this is surprisingly a fun lens. If you get accustomed to the heft and front-heavy nature of this combination, the results will be worth it as it produces unparalleled image quality. The way this lens renders is clean yet artful. The lens has this gentle sharpness, though loses a bit of the unique Zeiss character after f5.6, where it becomes sharp as a tack. For photography, I typically use a full-frame speed booster for the extra sharpness, though I still consider this optimally a video lens. The image is rich, textures and roll-off are rendered beautifully, and though it may be difficult to identify at first, everything has a three-dimensional pop to it. Out-of-focus areas have a dramatic fall-off, and the bokeh is extremely creamy, especially wide open. Contrast is strong, combined with a very clean look with minimal distortion and chromatic aberration, give this a modern look. One of my favorite characteristics is that colors are accurate, which means less adjustments for white balance and skin tones. The only optical negative for this lens is lack of saturation. For photography, this is quite a big issue, as colors appear milky and hazy, but this can be offset by Fujifilm color science and film simulations. For video, lack of saturation is not the end of the world, as color grading always starts with a flat canvas and can even achieve an old-time look you might see with Queen's Gambit, which were shot on the very similar Zeiss Supremes. The result is that you can get an image on par with high-end films. The only lenses that could be an improvement optically are professional cinema lenses like the Zeiss Master Primes and RE Signature Primes. There are many videos and comparisons with these lenses, but to summarize, the Otis is nearly identical to the Supremes, and the Supremes are quite similar to the Zeiss Master Primes, which have a little more saturation, while the RE Signature Primes have even better color and pop, though gentler contrast and arguably more micro contrast. But those tens of thousands of dollar lenses are out of reach, so realistically, the Otis is all we might be able to obtain. It may not give you the film look, but it gives you the look you'll see from modern blockbuster films. If you want the ultimate image quality with no upgrade, look no further. People today demand lenses with character and might not appreciate this lens for what it is. I'm not a big fan of this trend, as it doesn't make sense to me how people pay a premium for a suboptimal technology that intentionally hinders itself. This nostalgic trend of character is understandably beautiful, but the reason why I prefer modern looks is because of legacy. In the grand scheme of things, cinematography trends change, and in 10 to 20 years, when you look back on the work you made today, what will you have to show? This faux vintage trend we see in music and fashion has abandoned modern identity. It's not necessary to disguise the era you belong to and masquerade its memory for future generations. Your work can be beautiful, and you don't need to follow in those footsteps. The reason the 70s are considered the peak of their time for film, and why we attempt to replicate that look, is because they created such a strong, consistent identity for their era, and they used the best available tech to them at the time. Even if we might want to revel in the past, modern artists that make homages will be forgotten, washed away in the flood of memories, like tears in the rain.